This is AM Agenda. With me now, Liberal MP Melissa Price and Labor frontbencher Nick Champion. Melissa Price, to you on the issue of the company tax cuts. They're trying hard, the Business Council and other chief executives involved, but it doesn't seem it's going to work, and Xenophon will agree only to tax cuts up to $10 million per annum.
Well, certainly I'm not involved in those negotiations with Nick Xenophon, but, you know, there's no doubt that is our policy and we stand by our policy. You know, we need Australia to get behind. We need the Labor Party to get behind it. All this talk about minimum wages, you know, in different parts of Australia people aren't doing well. The best thing we can do is have company tax cuts. Companies then have more money in their pocket, more money to invest and more money to pay wages. You know, and where we get to, I don't know. We're in the House of Reps, but, you know, I've got all faith in my colleagues in the Senate that we're going to get a good outcome for
Company
Australia.
tax cuts for small businesses up to $2 million a year. It doesn't take much, does it? You'd concede to hit $2 million turnover a year for a small business.
Well, the point is, the government's enterprise tax plan, this $50 billion tax giveaway to the top end of town, and you can understand CEOs being wildly in favour of it. What did Keating say about the, you know, horse races? Always back the one that, you know,
self-interest.
There's nothing like a horse called self-interest.
So, you know, I don't think, you know, there are contested sort of economic benefits. It's very, very marginal indeed. And so why wouldn't you just take what the Senate will approve and move on to other issues? And then, you know, put this enterprise tax plan, which is dead on arrival, put it to one side, helps repair the budget, and then we can get on and debate.
Do you mean put the whole thing to one side, or at least allow the tax cuts for small business?
The small business tax cuts, sure. Put that through, and then, you know, drop the rest of it, because it's not going to happen.
But I mean, why is it good for small business and not good for big business? You know, that's the bit that I don't.
You're the people who are always talking about small business.
I know, but we're also supporting of big business.
You know, you're
as well.
always talking about, you know, the small operators. Well, here's a chance to give them a tax cut. Every day you delay by being pig-headed, you know, just accept it.
Well, they're going to get it through. Well, that's what's going to happen.
This $50 billion tax giveaway to the top end of town is not going to happen. And you should just accept it.
That's pretty much what is going to happen, isn't it? That you'll get the small business tax cuts through, then you've got to move on.
That seems clear. Well, you know, we'll see where we get to in the Senate.
And what about this? You mentioned the minimum wage, the submission by the government to be cautious, not wanting to imperil jobs growth. Is that fair, given how flat wages growth has been in recent times?
Well, let's be clear that this is really nothing more than a smokescreen for McManus, you know, with her ridiculous comments about, you know, some laws you can break and some laws you can't. But, you know, from my perspective, you know, I represent a very large electorate. Why would I aspire to people in my electorate to earn the minimum wage? I want them to be in the high wage group of people, and that's why these tax cuts are important. You know, the two are linked. But, you know, to actually be advocating for an increase in the minimum wage, I don't know that actually helps us at all. We actually need to get behind companies, get behind the business community. As I think there was a comment today, and I quite liked it, you know, we can't treat business community like an ATM machine. You know, we actually have to support business. If they're strong, wage growth will be strong.
And the Labor Party,
what's
your position in terms of jobs growth? Because if you had a $45 increase in the minimum wage, that would be dangerous, wouldn't it?
This whole argument that if you pour $50 billion into companies, that some of it will trickle down to workers, is just a nonsense.
But your colleagues argued it up until a few years ago.
And you just heard it. Melissa just basically admitted, we want to give a massive tax giveaway to the top end of town because they need incentives, and workers' wages, the minimum wages, which underpin everything. That you can't have strong high wage economy without a strong minimum wage. They want to put that into the freezer, into the deep freezer. Basically, their submission says zip zero. That's the mood music on their submissions. Well, cautious to a point of zip zero. That's what they want. After cutting people's penalty rates, and then in the last set of national accounts, Kieran, the Treasurer went out there and said, "Oh, flat wages growth is a terrible thing for the economy." Well, how does this government's economic plan help that at all? It doesn't. In fact, it exacerbates the very problem we've got.
Grant King, the president of the Business Council, though, points out clearly, and this has been known to a lot of us for a long time, is that Labor, Bill Short and Chris Bowen, have argued the case for tax cuts. Now it's a trickle-down economics.
Well, in a profoundly different economic environment where commodity prices were high, where the economy was growing properly, we were emerging from the global financial crisis. Yeah. And even before that, when Hawke and Keating did it, it was part of overall comprehensive tax reform, which included a capital gains tax, a fringe benefits tax, and cleaning up a whole lot of loopholes that were in the system.
And I know, Melissa Price, you aspire
to cut.
For your constituents, of course, it makes sense that all members of Parliament would want people to be on higher wages, but there are some who are not. You would hope that who want a pay rise for them, surely.
Absolutely, but whether it's where do you stop? So if it's $60, $70, $80, no one wants people to earn just over $17 an hour. But we actually need to get the business community environment right, and that's what our tax cuts are about.
Yesterday in the Parliament, Labor took on the Prime Minister over what seems like ancient history in the HIH issue and his role at Goldman Sachs. It went through a Royal Commission. There was no finding of wrongdoing. Is Labor being a bit desperate here? Are the attacks on short and hurting?
I'd say desperate, yes.
Every week we hear from the government ancient history about the industrial relations system. Every week. And in this sort of Prime Ministerial performance, which is simply unhinged. It's simply unhinged. You ask a question, and it was like Jack Nicholson out of the Shining, like, out he came. Axe through the door, face through the, like it was just a throbbing vein in the forehead. You could see it right across the chamber. It throbbed. I mean, now, if he just got up and just answered the question, batted it away, well, no one would be talking about it today. But what we got was this unhinged rage, really, and I don't think that's what people want from their Prime Minister. They want a Prime Minister that's dealing with jobs and actually has an energy plan, not a plain plan to blame everybody and give everybody a history lesson. So, I don't think it works for the Prime Minister. You could see it in the faces of his backbench. They're all like,
"Oh, that's rubbish. That's rubbish." I thought it was an outstanding performance by the Prime Minister. It was a pathetic attempt because we have been making Bill Shorten accountable for his own personal dealings when he was the head of a union. It was a pathetic attempt to sort of try and deflect away from, facts. And to suggest that Malcolm Turnbull has taken some secret payments, which he said categorically yesterday, that's not what he's done. And to suggest that that's somehow the same as Bill Shorten's behaviour, it was pathetic.
How good is Jack Nicholson, though, by the way?
Oh, he's great actor. But I don't want that in my Prime Minister. Do you?
Well, I don't think Melissa agrees with you.
No, I thought it was a
through the door, angry face.
Frankly, he was entitled to say exactly what he said yesterday.
He's entitled to be unhinged.
He wasn't unhinged. I thought he was very much in control.
Right, we're not going to agree on that, so we'll let you go and get a coffee and we'll talk to you soon. Quick break, back in just a moment.
Cheers.